So welcome to my video from the Anglesey triple header. So not a great qualifying start in second here. So yeah, wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to race this weekend. I had some nerve issues somewhere in my back or leg, whatever it was, but it made my leg and foot go numb. So I wasn't even sure if I could drive the car Friday morning. Didn't really have the usual kind of control, but managed to drive okay-ish. So yeah, testing was hard work. A bumper blew off a Porsche and hit me in the face. Then the gazebo blew down, and then I'm hobbling around on a gammy foot. So I'm starting second here. Really want to try not to stall. Really shit start. Spun up a hell of a lot. You're on a bit of a hiding to nothing on the outside there if you don't get anything other than the perfect launch, but I've actually lost 2 places now. So Dan's done a good job of getting in the lead, and a bit of understeer there's Tom's had a look, but obviously now just try and get on the back of these 2. It's a bit funny one. Like, I was really looking forward to Anglesey, and I've been on good form this year. Been quicker than I have been for the last few years, to be honest. And generally, just on pace alone, I would say that I've been, probably the strongest all year, apart from maybe Castle Coombe, which was hard work. But never been there before. But Anglesey I always go well on. But Friday, I mean, the wind was so bad that lap times just weren't coming. You can see there's oil on the track here. There's oil everywhere, to be honest. So they told us that there was oil kind of down the corkscrew, but there was oil in numerous places. And unfortunately, a lot of the places where the oil was, it was in the braking zones. Where you want to try and make a move. So yeah, after, I think qualifying wasn't great. I had quite a lot of understeer, so I'd put a bit of rake into the car for this race just to see if it helped at all. Still getting quite a lot of push, but you always get that when you're following another car. And yeah, there was only like a couple of areas where the car felt any good. I'm managing to make a bit of time up on the brakes, even though honestly I couldn't really feel my foot. I'm very much having to kind of press the pedal and then kind of get that feedback from. I suppose there's a few different things that you feel and get feedback from. There's the balance of the car as you're braking. There's the pressure that you're putting through the pedal, and there's the closing speeds and what have you. And like a piece of that information was definitely missing this weekend. A bad understeer through the last corner all weekend as well. And through here you can hear me kind of waiting on the throttle. I didn't feel like I could just kind of force it in and drive it out. So yeah, even though I felt like I had the pace, it's difficult when you've not got free air. So I could drop back and then pull myself back up to him, but then trying to follow closely to make a move can be difficult. And you hear about people talking about that sort of stuff with aero cars, like in the context of F1 and what have you all the time. But even in these cars, it is difficult. So just trying to be tidy around it, try and see if I can kind of start the lap a bit closer. But again, not really great on the way in there. It's really quite tentative there, just because obviously all that dust and stuff's down. So I think there was oil on the inside of this corner because I locked up badly on there on the first lap, so I was trying to kind of stay a bit wider than I normally would. My car was fairly good through church, which obviously gives you a good run up the hill. And you know, it was kind of occurred to me that that was probably my best chance of getting a decent pass. I wouldn't say that the top speed of the car was particularly good, but you know, if you can make up a good amount of speed through church before the rise, because the back straight at Anglesey isn't the straight at all, and it isn't remotely flat. Um, you can see when it starts to rise, that's when the revs just kind of hang. And you're not really accelerating anymore. I think primarily I put that down to the wind again. There was wind in various directions all weekend. I've had better speeds out of the car at Anglesey in previous years. Don't tend to get much of a toe off the Matels, to be honest. Especially not at that sort of distance. Like, you need to be right up cars really. But I say if you're too close, then you don't get a good run through church because it washes out. And Noah had a massive slide then, so well held. So a bit more of a toe here, still only 125. That was a bit of a, wasn't a send, it was more of a let him know I'm there. Now that was stupid. There was no way I was ever going to go under him there, and I've just lost time by running a daft line. I don't really know why I did that. Obviously quite desperate to try and get by him because it's a 15-minute race, and Dan's controlling the race well. In certain areas he's backing us both up and then trying to break away again. But yeah, sometimes you can be a bit overzealous in trying to get past, and you just screw your own line up for the next corner, up through the corner that you're trying to show your nose at. So this is a bit better. Obviously I'm closer, but again, not really close enough. And because obviously that was where Dan locked up on the first lap, so it's in the back of your head that, like, I'm pretty sure there's oil around there. And the fact that I don't really feel that confident on the brakes. Really, you need the move to be a bit more in progress on the way up there, rather than just leaving it all to a kind of do or die into rocket in. God, I hate that corner. It's such hard work when you've got a car that doesn't want to turn. But I'm actually staying a bit more with him this time. So made a bit of a dive there, but that's not going to work. But it's giving me an indication of what might be possible. So good run there through church. I'm kind of close, but it's not. I'm close enough that I've kept with him, but it's not that close that it's going to totally ruin my line. Again, nothing doing there. Say, like, with the understeer and the just kind of low grip all weekend, it's funny, like rocket in and rocket out, I felt like I was always stuck between what gear was best. Second, it bogs down a little bit more. First is very aggressive and spinning up. The more grip you've got and the less understeer you've got, you can obviously drive it that bit faster around the corner in second, and it picks up better on the way out. But when you're pushing and trying to get the car turn, struggling to get the car turned, it's difficult. So I've tried the same move again there. This time Dan's held Noah up a little bit, but still not got a good exit. Got the car turned in nice and tight there, so that's a really good run through church there. just carried that a little bit more speed, and this time I've got a bit of a run on him, but I've got the outside line, which isn't ideal. You can't tell from there, but I was never actually fully past, so I couldn't close the door. Yeah, didn't really have the space. Maybe I did, I don't know. At the time, I thought the gap was the door was closing a bit too much, but I probably could have stuck the car on the inside there. I say I mean, not excuses, but I think I'm having to think a little bit too much about how I need to drive. The car's snapping and what have you, sliding on me quite a lot. So again, you know, a gap opens up, I can close it, but it's getting past. It's not the easiest track to pass on. A little snap in the middle of the corner there. Again there, so you know, I'm getting kind of bits of snaps on the way in, bits of snaps on the way out, pushing in the middle of the corners, which is kind of all the worst three things you can have. I'd say the other thing that's in the back of my mind, I suppose, in this race is that I don't have to win. It's like the move that I backed out of the lap before. At this point, I was in control of the championship and didn't, I'd rather have a second or a third than a crash. But all that'll change through the weekend, unfortunately. So again, just fighting the car a lot. And obviously, you know, thinking getting on Noah and getting past him is difficult enough, so running out of time to do anything about Dan. Lap times are crap, as you can see. It's like used to be in the 109s around here. A lot of that is just, like I said, I don't know what it is, whether the surface of the track just wasn't offering up much grip, but also the wind. So this time I have got round there and actually managed to hold it. He's trying to squeeze me a little bit, is Noah, but that's the move done. Obviously I've got the inside line there, and my car was quite good through church, so even entering it at a bit of a tighter angle wasn't the end of the world. Shit then again on the brakes. Running wide on the way out. Again, like you can hear me waiting on the throttle for so long, and that's just because of understeer. Because I don't feel like I can commit and get on the throttle because I know that it's going to run wide. And it might sound like there's loads of obvious things you can do to resolve that, but I tried most of them on Friday. And you know, everything that you do has a negative, so you can stiffen the rear anti-roll bar, and then it makes the car kind of more sketchy putting the power down, and also kind of trail braking on entry. Sometimes it can make the inside rear come loose if you're running too much rear bar. So you might get your understeer sorted, but then you'll have a problem somewhere else. So you're just trading, paying Peter to taking from Peter to pay Paul all the time. That was shit. I don't know what the fuck I was doing there. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm driving too well here. But I say, obviously, what you can't see is the wind on the video. So the balance of the car is obviously affected quite a lot by the wind, and the wind's changing every lap. Just pushing a little bit. Slapping that MK there, it's compromised me a little bit. And that's that done. So yeah, not great lap times. Congratulate Dan there. So Dan drove really well. I think out of the three of us, it was between Noah, who was the fastest, but Dan kind of took track position and used his experience and drove really well to kind of control the race and manage it. So well done to him. Had a good battle with Noah as well. Unfortunately, none of this ended up mattering because me and Noah and two others got done for ride height infringement. So if you remember, I said that I jacked the rear up a little bit after qualifying. I really didn't think it was marginal, but it made the splitter a little bit too low because it pitches the car forward. So that's a disqualification, which basically, even though I've been kind of really strong all year, was in control of the championship, it turns it completely on its head. For this race, I dropped the rear and I raised the front because I just thought I'm not having any more. There's no point in it being marginal. I'll have to try and make the difference with my driving. What I did do is I had the rear bar quite stiff to try and at least make the car willing to rotate. It was damp. It had rained overnight. Oh, by the way, so I'm starting last with at the back with a delay. So we're going on the flag. For some reason, even though Noah got disqualified as well, they staggered us, which doesn't make any sense. But so we're going. I think it was supposed to be a 10-second delay. I don't think that was 10 seconds, but whatever. It's a delay. So yeah, it rained overnight, and I mean it was never going to be wet enough for wets, although it did spit through this race. So I mean, it may be one of those things where the wet tyres with quite a dry setup would have worked. But anyway, I'm on dry tyres and I've got the car set up fairly stiff, especially on the rear bar. And yeah, it was so sketchy. The rear of the car was just not giving me any feedback at all, and I still had loads of understeer, but then the rear wanted to just snap on me. But anyway, we've obviously started at the back here, so we're just going to try and make up some positions. Noah's a bit of a can opener here for me because he's hitting them first. So again, I kind of decided that this was going to be a write-off, so I just thought I'll see if I can learn something. The reality was actually it was a race where I probably could have won it if I'd have thought a bit more about the setup and adapted it for the conditions. But again, it looked more dry than it actually was from the side, and I've made kind of setup changes before based on assumptions that haven't worked, but this time I think it would have been the right thing to do to soften it up a little bit, just try and find some grip, because it was quite slick out there. So yeah, just see what we can do now, I guess. Just try and, obviously Noah's going to be trying to get through these, so if I can follow him through, try and stick with him. So took Naeem there. Noah's now on the back of Dan Ashby. I think at this point it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was patchy, but it wasn't like horrendous. I was getting some sort of feeling from the car. You know, there's certain areas that are worse than others. Church was quite bad. I've lost a bit of time on Noah there trying to get around Dan. Just didn't really get him at the right point. Extremely ponderous around there, and then you're always thinking, if I get on the power and I go over the rumble, is it going to snap on me? The other thing is though, with these AR1 Nankangs, they are good as long as you can get the heat into them, so bits of patches are not that bad. It's whoa, and then yeah, fucked it. Pretty sure, I don't know if I was off the brakes then or not, I'd have to rewind it, but I must have just been coming off them, or it might have been when I picked the throttle up. That's all just down to having the rear bar much stiffer than it should have been for these sorts of conditions. And yeah, I think it's, you can see a bit on the camera, so it has started spitting again, and it's just got that extra bit slippier, I should say, than it was before. So fair play to Noah, he's made up some good ground there, so he's kind of continued to push forward where that extra bit of slippiness on the tarmac is just that bit too much for me. My setup was basically dry or nothing. It was never going to work in these sorts of conditions. You know, you don't know how bad it is until you go out. It was so windy, I didn't think it was actually going to be, you know, the wind normally kind of takes care of it. Either blows it away or dries it out. A lot of fronts there, so I'm not actually that far away from Tom or Noah again, and then this happened. So I just short shifted, thought I could get on the power, just snapped on me with absolutely no warning. Just stayed calm before I made any kind of major adjustments. Let the car kind of half spin and then figure out where it's going to end up pointing up. So I don't know how much time I've lost there, 4 seconds, 5 seconds or something. So try and get back up to Tom and Carl, I guess, and Noah, although Noah doesn't end up finishing the race. I'm not sure exactly what happened or at what point he pulled off, because by the time I got back up to Tom, he wasn't there, so confidence pretty short at this point, to be honest. So I think the thing is, like, when you have a spin like that as well, then like this lap isn't a good lap because I'm at the point now where I don't really know where I stand with the car. So you know, it's the time lost with the spin, and then the time and so slow around that corner because it's just bitten me. Still running over the bloody rumble on the end and on the outside because the car's pushing so much. Yeah, pretty painful to watch, to be honest. Still out there. I think, to be honest, it was so snappy that it wouldn't really matter, but I would normally have a little bit more control. I was struggling to like have that kind of real control through my right foot. But when it snaps like that, you're always kind of one step behind the car. So yeah, I mean, at this point in the conditions that we're in, where it's kind of intermittently spitting, I'm just thinking this is about it. I'm not making any inroads with Tom and Carl at all. If I'd have just had a bit more of a compliant car, maybe got a bit more heat into the tyres and kept the heat into them, it'd have been a different story. As well as just having that bit more margin in the kind of, you know, the stiffer you are, the quicker the grip, the quicker that you lose the grip. So it's that kind of not having the feeling for it is really difficult. Yeah, so like 20s are the sort of lap times that we normally do in the wet with wets on. I honestly think that this could have been. I mean, we didn't know that it was going to spit through the race, so it's one of them things. The forecast was that it wasn't going to rain, so you're just dealing with the dampness that's on the track. Maybe wets with a fairly dry setup would have been quicker for a race distance. You know, maybe a bit slower at the start when it was drier, but then kind of in the middle part might have destroyed the wets, though. You know, you just don't really know. My God, this is like watching paint dry. So the only hope I've got really is that it kind of dries up just that bit where I can start to actually use what the car can do on this setup, you know, with a bit more grip. And I think that's starting to happen. There's a turning point that all of a sudden those two started coming back to me, which is just starting to happen now. So you can see them going into the first corner there. So that lap was a couple of seconds faster than my previous lap. Well, this is actually Minsk that I'm lapping, but the other two are not as far away as they were. So yeah, I'm just seeing that I am slowly catching Carl there, so let's just see if we can get get myself dragged up to him, and the car's giving me a bit more feedback now that like I can push on it a little bit, you know, like a little bit less understeer there, a little bit more comfortable getting on the power. Again, that was another 2 seconds faster than the last lap. So once it starts drying out and the heat comes in the tyres and you can keep it in, big difference. Big difference in only a couple of laps time. Still fighting me. Carl just nipped his inside rear up a little bit there, I think. Compromised him a bit. Try and get a bit of a run on him out of here. Right, so that's one down. So that is, unbeknownst to me, that's actually third place now. So with people going off and not finishing and what have you. Tom's not too far away, so I think now that it's dried out, my kind of natural pace is coming into effect a little bit. So that is now like the same lap time as I did at the start of the race, so it's back to being kind of patchy. They're still slow lap times, but it's patchy, but it's not kind of getting any worse. So Tom's gone defensive here, which is fine by me because I can run out, get the run on him on the outside, on the inside, sorry. Just get on the power that little bit earlier. It's enough to get you in front. As I say, top speed's nothing to write home about, but it's about getting the move done early. The overtaking opportunity is really out of church. It's not into rocket, especially not in these conditions where you're still not sure how late and deep you can brake. I've already had 2 spins, don't forget, in this race. So yeah, at this point I don't really know who's in front of me and where they are, but obviously I'm not going to be catching anyone else. I'd assume that Noah was still in the race because he's not parked up anywhere, but he'd come into the pits, so I'm in second now from the back with a delay. I can't remember if it started spinning again on this last lap. I think it did. Just fighting it a little bit more again. And that's the checkered flag, so not a very enjoyable. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't enjoyable. It was really hard work, but it wasn't actually a bad result. And I did get the fastest lap, so that puts me on pole for race 3. So yeah, not really a silver lining because the disqualification in race 1, it's the disqualification that causes you up, not the starting from the back. I don't really care about that. You know, I always see starting from the back as an opportunity to try and, you know, show what I can do. But yeah, the disqualification really knackers the championship up from a points perspective. So this is my opportunity to show what could or should have been from the other races. Not a great start, but got the inside. So the car is, I think it's exactly the same setup as it was for the previous race, because I just thought as it was drying out, it gave me a bit more feedback and it wasn't too bad, so I thought just leave it as it is. On a dry track it should be reasonably good. Yeah, I think the wind was worse in this one. The car was even slower, top speed wise. It's a funny one. In this race, the car felt really good for about 4 laps, and then don't know whether it's the stiff setup just kind of started to overheat the tyres a little bit or whatever. But early on, it was quite nice, and then just seemed to struggle a bit after that. But you know, reasonable pace in these conditions and reasonable consistency. Lap times again are not fast, but relative to everyone else, they were good. So it's a little bit snappy on the way in, but at least I can drive the car out. A little bit ponderous through there with the wind again. It's 122, so it's a good 2 mile an hour down on Saturday. Which I guess must be the wind. Can't think what else. The car's. It's not like I've got an engine problem or anything. I think the car's fine. So. Obviously, that wind really it does affect your speed a lot at Anglesey, because if you're not hitting the kind of, especially when it starts to rise, if you're not hitting that with good momentum, you won't continue to accelerate. It'll just kind of flatline at whatever speed you hit the rise at. Although I did get a crap run through church on that last lap as well. If I remember, this lap was fast, or was going to be fast. Nice run through church. Snap there. Yeah, this lap was. I think I had -1.5 on my dash, but unfortunately I catch Vince in the last corner. Is what it is. So it was only 0.2 faster in the end, and I think in this race I lost the fastest lap by like 1/10 or something. So it's just little things like that just don't go your way. That it's another point for fastest lap that would have been good but didn't happen. There's probably a number of like things that have happened this season, like small errors, or like when I got spun around at Castle Coombe, where I've lost a few points, and that now makes it really quite difficult going to Brands and Donington to do anything in the championship. I can do as well as I can do, but I think I just need to race for the enjoyment of racing. But yeah, the disqualifications really knacker the championship up, and I mean, as you can see here, maybe I failed the ride out by a couple of mil on one corner on the splitter. In this race and in the race previous, I both lowered the rear and raised the front, and I'm still going to win by 5 seconds. So in terms of like, you know, performance, it makes very little difference. I can make the difference up on the driving, but I've only got myself to blame, because essentially, why set it up so marginally if you don't need to? I think over the years I've become a little bit complacent, and I've not really been enjoying the racing as much. I felt like I've kind of been racing not because I need to. I think it's the committing to the championship feels like it's I'm going to tracks because I have to, not because I want to. I mean, Anglesey I love, but there's other tracks that I've been to that I just kind of can't help but think that I'm only going there because of the points at the end of the season, and I've probably lost sight of why I do this. So yeah, I'll try and enjoy the rest of the season and see how it goes. Like I say, in this race, I'm leading from start to finish without any real problems. You know, even with the car set up extremely safe. So again, now like that, I can't really seem to get. I think because I was frustrated that I lost that lap that was really good, I was trying to push to get that back, but it just wasn't happening after that point. Just kind of sliding around and what have you. Top speed quite poor. I'll have to check the data to make sure nothing's wrong, but I don't think it is. I think it is just the wind. But it does worry you when you see kind of why am I 2 or 3 mile an hour slower than I was last year. But you know, the wind affects you run through church, and then it affects you all the way up the straight. So actually, it's quite easy to get your head around when you think about it logically. And obviously, I'm not getting any toes in this race because I'm out front. Yeah, so I'd normally be worried about this sort of pace, but obviously it's a slow track for everyone. Slow conditions, I should say, for everyone, because I'm out front and no one's bothering me. So, yeah, it's a funny one sometimes when, like I say, I keep talking about the wind, and it's probably very boring. But the other thing is just sometimes the tarmac just offers up more grip than other times. This is one of those weekends where there just never felt like there was much grip. You know, wind aside, the actual mechanical grip wasn't there either. You know, it's not a thing about like the tyres, because we've been on the Nankangs for a couple of years now, and I think last year when we were here, I was, you know, doing mid to low tens without too much bother. But now that seems to be fucking miles away. It's like a good second off what I'm used to doing round here. And on the Yokos, I'm just kind of in the 109s. I'm not convinced that it is the. I'm sure the car can do 109s on the Nankangs as well. It's just, you know, if the conditions are right and everything, which they're very much not. You never know what you're going to get at Anglesey. It can be different one day to the next, but to be honest, it was just shit for 3 days. Yeah, but it's the same for everyone. Feeling quite tired at this point, to be honest. Ready for it to just be over. And that's that. So, yeah, really challenging weekend for various different reasons. Obviously not happy with myself. But yeah, it is what it is. After I was debating at this point whether I should even bother doing any more, because I mean, to be honest, it's such a lot of effort and such a lot of expense to show up. But it's not all about winning the championship. It's about enjoying racing. So it's one of those things. I think I will probably do the final 2 meetings and just see what happens. But I'd need some extremely good luck to get back into the championship at this point. But I think I should just focus on enjoying driving the car. But yeah, really challenging weekend from not even being sure that I'd be able to drive the car on Thursday night when I got down there, to bits flying off cars in testing and hitting me and making a ride height blunder and all that sort of stuff, which it does screw your second race up when you get those disqualifications. Although it ended up being a good race, I'm pleased that I got the race 3 just to prove a point, I suppose. But at the end of the day, I'd have been happier coming home third in every race, and it not have been so bad for the championship. But it is what it is. I don't really think I've got much left to prove, and I've only got myself to blame for the disqualification. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.